It's nearly impossible to find someone who doesn't know about a motorcycling, but most of them don't even know about its basics and working mechanism. And by the end of this video, you are going to learn a lot out of it. So I am the workshop guy, and today I'm gonna tell you a couple of things about a motorcycle engine, what's inside it, why piston has the rings, and why crankshaft is bigger at one side. So let's find this answer. When it comes about engine, then there are tons of its types, but mostly the engines in internal combustion like compression ignition and spark ignition are well known and widely used. Today we will learn about this one, 4-stroke internal combustion spark ignition engine. About its main parts, crankcase, crankshaft, connecting rod, piston, cylinder, cylinder head and valve mechanism. Connecting rod is supposed to work between piston and crankshaft. Now because it can have its rotation between piston as well as in crankshaft, if the piston is restricted to move linearly only, combining these movements can operate this slider crank mechanism for sure, and that too even at great speed. By the way, when this mechanism operates at higher speeds, especially when piston is going upward, it tries to pull everything upward due to its momentum, and that gives really unexpected movement. And we don't want that actually. And this is exactly why crankshaft is bigger at one side. Now look, when piston goes upward, this extra weight of crankshaft also causes a downward movement, which results into force cancellation and the smooth ride eventually. But the problem doesn't end here. Let me explain why. Because of this attached extra weight on crankshaft, we eliminated shaking of engine in vertical direction only. But now engine offers us the horizontal shaking like this one on both sides. Now to defend such kind of shaking, we need one more shaft that will have one more weight of course. This shaft is actually called counter crankshaft. We can notice how it helps in stabilizing the engine even more by applying counter force. Well, this was about crankshaft. Now we of course need something that will push piston downward for the further working of engine. So cylinder has two holes upside on cylinder head that are usually kept closed using two valves. Now assuming that piston is right here, we can open this one, that is inlet valve and air fuel mixture. In our case, petrol and air mixture will come inside the combustion chamber while the piston is going downward. Later when piston arrives upward again, it starts compressing the fuel. This causes temperature and pressure rise in fuel. When piston starts going downward again, a spark is generated in highly flammable fuel using spark plug, which results in an explosion and apparently piston goes downward. Well, if in case you didn't get why piston went downward, then try putting something on a burning firecracker. You will instantly understand everything. Sticking to the point, when piston reaches downwards, it again rises to remove all burnt gases present in the combustion chamber and this time exhaust valve opens to blow everything out into silencer. Now everything you saw until now will be repeated until the engine has fuel and power supply. I mean inlet of air fuel mixture, its compression, then an explosion and blowing out the burnt gases. This cycle will be repeated in high speed. You might have noticed that this thing is separated in 4 parts, that is intake, compression, power and exhaust. In other words, suck, squeeze, bang and blow. And this is exactly why the engine is called 4-stroke engine. By the way, crankshaft rotates twice during it. Moving on, you might have noticed a strange thing that piston has rings on it. I mean, why not just piston? Simple answer is thermal expansion. Now, in case you don't know about thermal expansion, here comes some engineering knowledge. So whenever the power stroke happens, it generates a lot of heat from itself, resulting in the temperature rise of engine parts. And whenever temperature of an object increases, it results into increased volume of it. This has been noticed in lot of places like railway tracks. You can Google it after. Right now just remember that whenever temperature of an object increases, it results into increased size of it, and this is exactly called the thermal expansion. And when the piston expands due to thermal expansion, it will apply force on cylinder wall, and that may result into huge maintenance cost. And this is exactly why piston is kept a little bit smaller in diameter to keep the allowance between piston and cylinder. And this gap is later filled with piston ring. Now what happens is, each ring has this small gap right here. So that when ring expands, it fills this gap instead of damaging the cylinder. And the result we get is piston will not cause any damage to cylinder and neither the ring will. which will definitely reduce some maintenance cost. Secondly, this engine's other parts will also be heated, and yes, someone needs to take care about them too. For this one, let's take an example of cup of tea. I'm serious, literally the cup of tea. You might have noticed that when the tea is inside the cup, it takes a lot more time to cool when compared with the same amount of tea in saucer. And the only reason behind happening this is the contact area of them with air. Here the contact area of saucer is more than that of the cup. Hence the tea will get cooled at higher rate in saucer as compared to the cup. Similarly, here by using these fins outside the cylinder, we are actually increasing the contact area of air to reduce the temperature of engine, and that works great. Now if you do remember about those valves we talked about earlier, then they actually need a special mechanism to operate in the way we want them to do. For this one, there is a sprocket mounted on the shaft from crankshaft. Using a chain, we can transmit this power from here to all the way up here. This chain is called timing chain. This thing gives us an extra rotating part of here, and now by using this we can do whatever we want to do. Like we can do cam and follower arrangement here. And then by using rocker arm, we will be able to operate these valves up and down. This one is camshaft. If you want to know more about these valves, their opening and closing time, then I will put a link in description, and I strongly suggest you to have a look. Moving on, these valves have a spring that helps them to always be in the closed position. Whenever the time comes, camshaft forces rocker arms to push the valve downward, and the spring will always get them to the initial position. And after the work is done, the spring will always get them to the initial position. So this was about valves. Subsequently, for the smooth working of engine, crankcase is filled with lubricating oil. As clutch and gearbox are also present here, they need another video. But what happens is, this oil later goes upward into the combustion chamber and burns, resulting in increased emission of the engine. And this is exactly why piston has third ring that prevents this oil from going upward. And that's it. This was my breakdown of 4-stroke internal combustion engine. If you like it, give me a big thumbs up, and I think you can at least do subscribe and let your friends know about this series. Bye.